You busted. You lying. You lying, Raffi. You're a liar. Brrr, it's getting cold up here. Tell engineering to throw another log on the fire. This is episode 2 of Star Trek Picard Season 3. Disengage. As you know, I like to ponder the meaning of the titles. Disengage is very straightforward. What do you think it means? It means to disengage, to call off, to leave, to agree to disagree, maybe. One would hope. Things don't go quite so smoothly in this episode. Being up front, I didn't think it was quite as good as the past episode. Sadly, we're getting a little bit into the confusing, kind of violent, modern Trek. Like I said before, this is very much a sequel to Season 2. So far, much better. From what I've been hearing, just through the grapevine, the rest should be better as well. I can't say that overall, the writing alone makes a lot more sense. The plot is better. It keeps me hooked a little better. I was excited to watch this episode. I wanted more. But what I got was just more. Nothing new, nothing wow, nothing amazing. In fact, it kind of feels like I'm just watching Wrath of Khan again. For those of you who have seen this and have seen Wrath of Khan, surely you've noticed the similarities. Spoilers here. Wrath of Khan, right? Genesis device. Powerful weapon. An enemy gets it. Admiral on the bridge, called back to action. A one-on-one, shipwise fight in a nebula. We realize that Captain Kirk has a son, David Marcus. Okay? For those of you who've seen this episode, you know what I mean without spoiling what occurs in the rest of this review. See, this review in itself has a narrative in and of itself. And let's not get ahead of things. This is Disengage. We picked up from where we were last time because this is essentially a 10-hour long movie. Do they need to be? Could this whole season have worked as a movie? Like an intro into a potential Star Trek Titan show, which I can smell in the ether, by the way. A plot, B plot. A plot, it's on the Titan. Can we just stay there? I just want to stay on the Titan. I don't want to deal with what's going on with Raffi. Although Raffi's plot was a little bit more interesting this episode than the last one. And I admit it does wrap up a few emotional arcs that our character in Raffi had to go through. I'll get into that in a moment. However, we're stranded on the Helios, Beverly Crusher's ship from last episode. We lost the shuttle because we're being menaced by the Shrike. A very ugly ship. This is Captain Vadic's ship. And I wouldn't be caught dead flying that thing. It looks like a hunk of crap. It looks like junk. No, wait. It should be hauled away as junk. It's just angular. It's just a bunch of points. You can do better. To make another comparison to Wrath of Khan, the enemy ship in that was a really cool, iconic new Starfleet design, the Miranda class. Very cool. The Shrike. Whatever. It's just the scimitar. It's the Narada. At least the Narada from Star Trek 2009 had the benefit of being totally insane, so it sticks in your mind a little bit. But between totally insane and totally boring, there's this really nasty middle ground, and that's the Shrike. It's not really much of anything. It's big, it's scary, it's pointy, it's kind of yellow. Whatever. Beverly is in her pod, her medical pod. How are we going to get her out of here? We're being destroyed. They're going to tractor beam us in. We have no repulsor beam capability to counteract the transporter beam. We're essentially dead in the water. But what happens? A Star Trek thing happens. I was amazed. For a brief moment, I was watching Star Trek. The U.S.S. Titan warps in and places itself between the Shrike and the Helios, breaking the tractor beam. We find out from this instance that what they're looking for actually is Jack Crusher. Of course, in the intro sequence, we know Jack Crusher believed he was getting a one-up in a flashback against ship inspection. Okay, you're trying to go to this planet. What are you giving them? Medicine? Guns? Bombs? We don't know. We have to look into the ship, that being the U.S.S. What are you carrying? Romulan ale. Is that medicine? It's good for all kinds of things. If I was going to bribe you, I'd bribe you with this. Weapons. Keep note of this idea. Who's getting one over on who? Jack Crusher thinks he's getting one over on the inspection crew on a ship in the flashback sequence. Actually, it turns out they were getting one over on him. They were looking for him. They were trying to give him to who I assume is Vedic, the marked woman. You'll see that come up again later. But that's beside the point. Jack Crusher, Picard, Riker, Beverly in her medical pod end up back on the Titan. And I think Liam's just about to crack. Every time something happens, I'm thinking, man, Liam's not going to like this. Which is a sign of good characterization. Ask yourself when you're watching a TV show or a movie or what have you, if you're thinking ahead and saying, what is this person going to do about that? That's a sign that they've been characterized well. It's a sign that the writers have made you care about what someone else is thinking. Always remember that. And I was thinking about what Liam was going to say here. Here we go. I'm strung out from carrying around old people on my ship all day who may or may not be retired. And these pretzels are making me thirsty, and his hair is a little bit messed up, and I just loved it. It's so fun making him mad. Although I'd never do that in person. Never would I do that. It's okay when Picard does it. He's semi-retired. I looked into this. Let it be known that Picard, I think, is technically retired. I went on Memory Alpha, and they said he retired before in the previous season of Star Trek Picard. And then there's a section for second retirement that's in the same paragraph with him moving to Chaltok 4, which is something that was occurring at the beginning of this season. If he is indeed retired, he has no sway over what's going on here. Another thing to keep in mind for the rest of this review. Who is this Jack Crusher guy? Well, apparently we can't check the transporter to look at his DNA or look at his life signs. We could identify with 100% accuracy Beverly's life signs from outside of the U.S.S. and know for certain that it's Beverly, but we can't kind of suss out that Jack Crusher really is Beverly's son. Jack Crusher turns out to be quite the con man, and Liam wants to put him in his place. Jack Crusher gets a dressing down from Liam. Many times in this episode, Liam is referred to like a kid or a boy to demean him. You demean someone by insulting their maturity, calling them immature, calling them a child. In the same episode, we see Liam call Riker and Picard boys. You boys got in trouble. So on and so forth. You get the point, the theme of questioning someone's maturity. And there's a lot of that to go around, especially when you've conned a captain into taking a ship somewhere where it doesn't belong outside Federation space and engaging with a hostile enemy on Frontier Day. Way to go. Immature, I guess you could say. So Liam is like, is this guy even Beverly's son? How do we know he's not lying? Yeah, we don't know how to check for DNA. We don't know how to check for DNA in Star Trek. We don't know how to check who your parents are. We don't know how to check computers. We don't know how to check the transporter buffer. In Discovery Season 2, we couldn't figure out, spoilers, that Michael Burnham was the Red Angel. And then, oh no, wait, we thought it was her, but it was actually her mom. I guess their DNA is just too similar. We don't know how DNA works, really, in the future. But we're just going to take it on a whim that he's Beverly's son. I mean, Liam does. It's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. I guess Jack Crusher is telling the truth, even though he's a proven liar and a con man, and Vedic's claims check out. He is wanted for crimes both inside and outside the Federation. Mind you, crimes inside the Federation, we have grounds. we have grounds to discuss something with Vedic here. He's wanted in the Federation and outside. He is not to be given to Vedic without some discussion. I mean, Federation law would have it that we're outside Federation space, we're outside our jurisdiction. We shouldn't even be here. Given that we should not be here in the first place, it does not matter what happens to Jack Crusher. Okay? But we do have grounds because he was wanted in the Federation. We can discuss it, but ultimately it has to side with Vedic because Vedic is supposed to be here. Supposed to. And we're not. I mean, it's very clear that when we're outside of the Federation territory, number one priority is to get back into Federation territory with nobody dead, right? And somehow I think we're going to fail that in this season. Suffice to say, we're planning on giving Jack Crusher back to Vedic. We know now, because the Shrike attempted to transport Jack Crusher out of the Helios, if not for transporter inhibitors. Again, in this episode, we see Riker. Last time it was Beverly, but we see a character poke their head out around a corner. It looks like they're directly getting shot at by these aliens. And they don't die. Last episode, Beverly ran out into a hail of gunfire from the Shrike aliens, I'll call them. And Riker almost does the same thing, pops his head out to throw a grenade. Looks like he's getting shot. Nothing happens. What gives? It's like they're ghosts or something. The beams go straight through them. I don't know. I paused, rewound, looked at it, and it's par for the course for Picard since Season 2. Characters just running into a hail of gunfire and nothing happening. So there's continuity there between Season 2 and Season 3. Not that it ruins the episode. Jack Crusher, he's trying to escape the brig, okay? And in the meantime, I don't know what's going on. It's just a revolving door here with 7. Liam is like, you're officially, you're relieved of duty. Get out of my face. Fine, that makes sense. She's no better than Jack Crusher. It's basically confirmed now, she aided Picard and Riker in taking that shuttle illicitly to the Helios. Insubordination. You're gone. 5 seconds later, I don't care what kind of rank I have. I need a tactical team on blah, blah, blah. And these officers are following her. This is the weirdest thing in this episode. Again, it prompted a rewind. Am I missing something? She gets reinstated on a whim because she caught Jack Crusher getting into the transporter bay by Liam, just schizophrenically, just saying, oh, you're reinstated. Insubordination. You're gone. Oh, wait, you just earned yourself your place back. No. Like, what's... And those Starfleet officers were following 7, even though she was just relieved. Like, what's going on? Like, what's going on in the ship? Does half the crew just not trust Liam? What's going on? We're undermining the captain's ability to inspire trust amongst the crew, which is extremely dangerous because the hierarchy of command is important in a dangerous situation. When seconds matter and the crew is not sure who is in charge, people die. That's why you need absolute 100% certainty in the captain. And what I'm seeing here is characters, as Starfleet officers, willingly follow 7 around after she's been dismissed, right? Like, after she's been relieved of duty for insubordination, rightly so. And I just don't know where that's coming from. She gets reinstated in 5 seconds on a whim by Liam, so I guess it doesn't matter. By the way, Jack Crusher got out of the brig because they let him into the brig with a foreign piece of technology on his person. They let him into the brig with it. And he used it to disengage the transporter, the shield array for the brig. By the way, could you tell me the power level of this shield? You have to tell me legally in case I run into it and hurt myself. Oh, it's level 10 and whatever. Strange piece of dialogue. Did we even really need it? Did we need it to know that Jack Crusher could get out with this device? Not really. I'm sure he would have found a way to just run up close to that officer and just freaking drop kick him in some kind of strange Picard way anyway. Picard way, a new Trek way. You know, just Wham bam. Yeah, we're cool. Give me my double fist palm thing to the back any day over space kung fu. Call me old-fashioned. Guess what? Jack Crusher, he's not that bad of a con man. The only place he can transport to is the Shrike. He's trying to give himself up to save Beverly. Hey, he's not all bad. Maybe he is your son. In fact, all episode, Riker was saying, do you not see what I see? He reminds me of someone. You know, the things you would say when you're trying to lead an audience along, when the identity of this character is interesting or something. What does he see? He doesn't look like Picard. He doesn't act like Picard. We know Picard wasn't always the Picard we knew. When Picard was young, he was maybe a little bit more like this Jack Crusher. I don't know if Riker exactly knows that, but we do. What does Riker see? He keeps alluding to the fact that, surprise, surprise, Jack Crusher is allegedly Picard's son with Beverly. There you go, I said it. I know we were all thinking it, but now it's out in the open. Although, you'll note, if you watch the credits, the credit sequence where we're looking at the Titan LCARS displays, number 1, we hear a ship decloaking. Number 2, we see mention of a Burrell class, which is a Klingon ship. Interesting. We see that there's a red section on the starboard aft section of the saucer, which indeed gets damaged in this episode when the Shrike throws the Helios at it. You'll notice the character of Jack Crusher is played by Ed Spielers. When his name shows up, we have what looks like DNA sequencing running across the screen as soon as it shows up. At the start of the sequence, it has DNA. DNA buttresses both ends of the ending sequence, the front and the back, specifically when his name comes up. Does DNA, in that regard, say to you standard biological lineage, or does it say to you a scientific imposition upon biology? Some people were thinking that the DNA sequence in that section was actually signifying the fact that Jack Crusher was a clone of his father. And I thought for a second maybe that was true, but I guess it wasn't. Or maybe it could somehow be true in some other strange way I cannot yet imagine. Also, last episode, I don't remember if I said it, but I speculated that Raffi's secret Starfleet contact was maybe 7, somehow, in some strange way, like 7 was secretly Section 31, in addition to Starfleet. But it wasn't. It was, boop, someone that you'll see in the B-plot when I get to that point. Our A-plot and B-plot don't really intersect that much, but they reflect each other in an interesting way, which we'll get into. At the last moment, Riker is like, you know what, I can't wait for Beverly to get better. There's nothing left we can do. I'm just going to inject her with this random thing. He's not a doctor. He's Riker. I'm just going to wake her up against the doctor's wishes. Oops. I killed her. Oh, wait, no, I didn't. Whew, that was close. She's back alive. She was under a lot of sedative, but now she's okay. And just before we're going to lose Jack Crusher to the Shrike, Liam is totally ready to give him up, as I would, just being logical. Beverly comes onto the bridge, and without saying a word, in an awkward encounter, they just kind of psychologically create this mental link where they both know that Jack Crusher is Picard's son. And I get it from the storytelling point of view, how we could have this moment where we just kind of squint and close our eyes and realize just how deep in doo-doo we are. Normally, and maybe I would have it so Beverly said, Picard, you have to save him, like that, in that like weird tone, just to get it across a little bit more. Maybe it worked for you. I didn't really love it, but I can see how it could work. I can see how it works for people. Big difference so far with this season is previous seasons, I had a hard time seeing how this could work for anybody. But I can see with this season so far how it can work. I can see the good points. I can see how someone could really, really love this. I get it now. There's a lot to love if I'm willing to turn my brain off a little bit. And if it turns out great, I'll be willing to forgive basically any sin. If it turns out really good, that remains to be seen. Suffice to say, Liam just says, oh, you can see it in his face. He's a great visual actor. He's like, oh, God damn it. Because now we know how deep we are in this when this character we have to save is the Admiral's son. And he's just like, how? He's thinking, oh, for God's sake. We've done all this stuff, broken all these rules, and now I need to break them further so I can be the hero that saves heroes. Seven's line, not mine. Pivotal line, I guess, in changing Liam's mind. But dang, we're cornered in space, as it were, and space has no corners. And we get to see Picard back. Picard comes back at the end of this episode. He takes charge. This is in charge Picard. He's large and in charge. Belay that order. And he just starts throwing the orders around. You do this. You do this. You look busy. Engage. This is what we wanted. Like, Picard can be in charge without taking over the show. He doesn't have to be a pouty misfit in every situation. He gets talked down to a little bit by Jack Crusher, but not after Picard laid into him with a serious dressing down, becoming of Picard's character that we saw in TNG. He gets a certain amount of time to try to pinpoint exactly Jack Crusher's deal, to get his number. And let me tell you, he really gives it to him. He reads off a laundry list of all his crimes and then says, and you endangered everybody on this ship. There's 500 people on this ship. And he really gives it to him. And, man, it was straight out of TNG, I thought. The Picard that just didn't care. The Picard that was like, whatever. I know your dealio. Blah, blah, blah. You're not going to do this to this ship. We're going to do this by the books. Old Picard. The Picard that people liked. Not strange action cowboy pirate Picard that showed up in the movies and then metastasized into Picard Season 1 and Season 2. Old Picard is back. But we're saying, let's challenge him a little bit emotionally. What's he going to do to stretch the law when his son is involved? Creating a well-oiled machine and then throwing a wrench into it. Alright? And see what plays out. That's very much what's going on in this episode. That about wraps up your A plot. Your B plot, like I said before, is a mirror reflection of it in terms of plot and theme. This show is actually assembled a lot better than you may initially think when you watch it. Okay? Raffi's getting nowhere, right? Her lead is saying nothing. Disengage. Title of the episode. Do we engage? Do we not engage? Do we engage the Shrike? This mysterious informant is telling Raffi to disengage. It's thematically consistent, visually consistent, symbologically consistent, if I can say that. Maybe it's symbolically? I don't know. We just saw Starfleet Recruitment Building, a symbol of hope as it were, be destroyed. It's too late to stop this. It's already begun. Somebody has that weapon. And officially, the Federation is blaming it on a Romulan named Toluco. Raffi, being Raffi, has suspicions that it's not really Toluco. They're pinning it on him for some reason. And she wants to know the truth. We've known since the beginning of the season that Starfleet may not be trusted. It may be suspect to trust them entirely. So we have an inkling that this Toluco guy, that's not who we're looking for. So she follows up with what she knows. She's looking for a Ferengi named Sneed. Okay? Sneed's greed and his deeds. You know, we got the lead on Sneed. And he's the Ferengi that allegedly brokered the deal with Toluco. If Toluco, being the culprit, is to be believed, Raffi is basically going off script here. She's already been told not to engage, so everything she does now, that's her fault, baby. And she has to go find Jay, her former partner in crime, and the father of her son, Gabe, who I think we last saw in season 1. I like this moment, you know. It's a crossroads. Jay is there. She needs to use Jay to get to Sneed. Pick one. This is the ultimatum. Jay knows that the life of their son can only be endangered by Raffi being there because of her connections with Starfleet intelligence and her past life being a quote-unquote conspiracy theorist. Turned out to be correct in season 1. Is it a conspiracy theory if it's right? Anyway, maybe that's the type of person you would want in Starfleet intelligence. Someone who can make connections between things that don't seem on the surface to be connected. You know? Things like that. Webs. Rabbit holes. This was ruining Raffi's life. And could potentially ruin Gabe's life. So you can see how Jay would say, are you going to pick Sneed? Or are you going to pick your son? I can put in a good word with Gabe, but I need you to pick. And this is how we're resolving this with Raffi for the audience. Jay is, on behalf of the audience, saying, are you going to be this dysfunctional parent, or are you going to be Starfleet? She doesn't answer. That's what I thought. That means she wanted Sneed. So is she staying out of Gabe's life? Somehow I think we can still patch this up later on. Somehow I think we can put a bow on it. But for now, we're going for Sneed. So she gets the lead on Sneed and asks him what's going on with this Toluco character. By the way, I know X, Y, and Z because I work for Toluco. So you can cut the crap. Again, beginning of the episode, Jack Crusher is trying to get one over on the inspection crew. They're getting one over on him. It turns out they were just looking for him. They turned him over. You think you're suave? You think you're slick? Raffi's trying to get one over on Sneed. Sneed gets one over on her. I know you're not working for Toluco because I have Toluco's head. Again with the head. I don't know if I needed to see that in my Star Trek, but we did force Raffi to take a drug that she didn't really want to take in order to prove her not having loyalty to Starfleet. Take this drug. Which is really stupid of Sneed, because if you're Starfleet, you can take that drug, no problem, and then come right off it in 5 seconds. No problem. Very smart, Sneed. You got her to take this drug, and you caught her lying. She's not working for Toluco. You busted. You lying. You lying, Raffi. You're a liar. And what happens, right? Almost in a dream, Raffi is ensconced in what I assume is a drug-induced fever, I guess. She is saved by the Angel of Death. Worf! Worf is back. We see it from her point of view. We experience the arrival of Worf as she sees it, half in a blur. Well executed, but I must say, did we need to execute all those people? Worf didn't announce himself. I think the first guy he killed was unarmed. Not very honorable. Worf should have said, Hey you guys, I'm Worf, son of Moog. Get the hell out of here. And then just destroyed them. He would have won anyway. Come on. He would have beat them anyway, even if they had phasers. He's Worf. But it feels action figure-y, if you will. This feels like we're playing with our TNG action figures. And wouldn't it be cool if Worf ran into this room and freaking killed everyone, then cut this guy's head off? Whoa! Whoa! Holy crap. Sneed's head's cut off, just like Toluco's head was cut off. Live by the sword, die by the sword. Or in this case, a mechleth I think he had. Beautiful weapon. I think I like it more than Batleth. It just looks a little bit more functional to me. Worf says, I told you to not engage. He was the handler that Raffi had from Starfleet. If they are Starfleet. This feels very extra Starfleet to me. What's going on here feels like it could be Section 31. That's how we get Worf in the show. Is Raffi just going to disappear now that we got Worf? Who knows? Raffi's plot had a little bit more to do than last episode, and I will say that thematically it was important for the reasons I'll get into at this moment. A-plot. Remember, Jack Crusher is the swindler who gets swindled. B-plot. Raffi is the swindler who gets swindled. A-plot. Picard finds the son he didn't know he had. B-plot. Raffi wants to patch things up with the son she lost. So you can see how thematically we're setting up our A-plot reflecting our B-plot with regards to the hunter becoming the hunted and vice versa. The flipping of the script, flipping the table, and parenthood. Losing your child and discovering a child. Picard gets a son, effectively, in this episode. And Raffi loses her son. She chooses Starfleet over her son. You can do it emotionally, you can do it in the background, you can do it without saying it, but when you come to that crossroad and you have to pick and you verbally need to say, okay, I'm going down this road, it puts it in perspective and it makes it serious. It makes it real. It brings it into reality. You know? And I really felt that with the Raffi plot. Overall, this is strong Raffi. Like, Raffi usually was bad, but this is pretty good. All things considered, though, I would rather be on the Titan. No offense. I didn't really need the B plot. I'm looking forward to her A plot and her B plots intertwining soon. You know, just so we can go into that nebula, the Mutara Nebula. Oh wait, no, not Mutara Nebula, the Righton system. Whoops. That was episode 2. Not quite as good as the first one. Musically, we had menacing tones when the Shrike was on screen, although not melodically interesting to me. We had the return of the Klingon theme that you may remember from the motion picture, and then brought back sporadically here and there when Worf was on screen. Very cool theme. It's scary and heroic. Very Worf. When Worf is on screen, the Klingon theme is blaring. I told you not to engage. Mwah. Chef's kiss. Musically, we're winning. Thematically, I think we're kind of winning. Like I said, it's present, but it's not particularly salient. For me, it's not gonna really... It doesn't really press all my buttons. I'll say that. Plot, it was there. It was interesting. It moved itself along. Visuals, the Titan. I don't like the Titan's design. I don't like the Titan, but I can recognize when a shot looks good. And the Titan looked fantastic on screen. It was well lit from the outside. And internally, when we left the bridge, the lighting seemed to improve a bit. I'll give him that. The brig was bright enough. Our little conference rooms we were in were kind of bright enough. Not too shabby. So visually, we're kind of winning. Musically, we're winning. Thematically, kind of. Performances, though, we had the introduction of the character Vadic. It worked for me. The eccentric villain with some vocal tics, kind of a strange way of pronouncing things. It worked for me. Okay? I was alright with it. I can see how someone could interpret that as hokey or cartoony in a way. I can see how you could think that. So I'm just going to make my own personal judgment call and just say, for me, that worked. Like, Vatic is working for me. Shrike, no. Titan, no. Liam, yes. Jack Crusher? I don't know, he's a wild card. All those things out in the open. I'm going to have to go ahead and give this episode a reasonable 5.5. Not as good as the previous one, but it's only worse by a little bit. If we can maintain this quality for the rest of the season, just kind of middling, I'll be okay. I would like to see some 7s and 8s. Please. But at this point with Picard, fool me once, fool me twice. 3 times, though. If we dip down into the 2s, and God forbid 1, I'm going to be very upset. Let's just, let's maintain a holding pattern, please. Traditionally with Picard, the first few episodes of a season have been okay. Please, for the love of God, can we get to can we get to episode 4 and still be this good? I will begin to change my mind. I will begin to see the light if we can get to episode 4 and it's still, we're still treading water at 5s and 6s. I will break my icy shield and start to accept this if we can get to that point. Unfortunately, episode 3 is not that point, because I believe episode 3 of Picard season 1 I thought was good. So can we get to 4? Please, can we get to 4? Markedly different season 3. You can tell with the writing and with the characterization. But is that enough? Was this episode good for you? This episode was just alright for me. 5 out of 10, that's the finish line. 5.5, you're not doing too shabby. You can definitely do a lot better. That's Picard, Season 3, Episode 2, Disengage. And I'm about to disengage from this review. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you when next time I get to see you. So long. If Picard is retired, and he's not really an acting admiral at this time, how is it that he can legally override Liam as the captain of the Titan? Or is Liam just going along with this just to be nice? Am I crazy? Is Picard reinstated? Did he reinstate himself? Does Liam not know that he's retired? Am I just imagining that he's retired? I'm pretty sure he just retired. Does anybody know what the deal is there? Can anybody just tell me? Pretty sure I just read that he was retired.